What is up, everybody? What's going on? How's
Hello,
everybody doing?
everyone.
I saw Raul was in there. Julie's in there. Dana, Missy, Joni, Viv, Jen, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. We are super, super excited. We are on show 11, babe. Can you believe that? 11 women who rock. And we are super excited about this one. We got our signature. We got our, well, not our signature. We're wearing glasses. Lauren has her signature glasses. Mine aren't as cool as hers, but we had to wear them. Shannon was just saying, Jay, do you remember when you wore your glasses every day? And I do. And I also used to wear pants every day, not basketball shorts. So,
hmm
um, babe, you're awfully quiet.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Well, go ahead.
No, we're just happy. We've had 11 guests, and every single one of them has brought amazing things to the table, and we know it's going to be the exact same thing with Lauren. We are so excited that she's here with us tonight. Even after the great debate that occurred over the week. I'm
Yeah,
glad
well,
that
we don't have to talk about that, but we will. It's okay. And I have to
right.
say, normally I'm excited because one of the first few women who rocks, I don't know, other than maybe Carrie, Lauren has been in J-Bo Nation since the beginning, so we don't have to welcome her to J-Bo Nation because she's been in J-Bo Nation since the beginning. So we followed
Yes.
each other very early on. She's amazing. She's been so kind and supportive of me and Shannon. There's her emoji on the screen. If you're on Kick, throw the emoji in the air. We have two custom emojis for Lauren. Throw them on the screen. Lauren's amazing. We kind of bonded over Gary Vaynerchuk. We both love Gary V. She's just awesome. So let me just get my little notes here before we bring her on. She is a dedicated member of the Licensed Private Detective Association of Rhode Island, and is it OSINT, Open Source Intelligence Certified Investigator. She's a member of the National BTK Task Force. She has testified before the House Finance Committee of Rhode Island in support of a statewide cold case unit. She's just a general. Oh, there's the emoji. Badass woman who rocks. Without further ado, Lauren Lee Malloy. Lauren, how are you?
Hey guys, Bose, we made it. We're here.
Look there. There's your face. If you see, uh,
So
all of
cute.
it.
So funny.
Um, we are so pumped, and I guess I should just bring it up now. There's a couple of firsts. Let me take off these emojis so we're not distracting everyone. Couple of firsts for this show. First of all, Lauren sent us a slideshow, which we are going to show to you guys. We're so excited. Like, it's so awesome. We're going to get probably the closest look of a guest we've had on, a bunch of pictures, and Lauren's going to go through it, and it's amazing. But the other first is this is the first guest to trounce me on Twitter.com because folks, Lauren saw that I had a show, or I tweeted that I don't like Reese's peanut butter cups. I'm not a fan. And Lauren's like, we're going to talk about this. So let's talk about it, Lauren. What's the deal with Reese's peanut butter cups? Come on.
Let's talk about it, Jay. We should really talk about it, shouldn't we? So I think the numbers speak for themselves. I think the people have spoken loud and clear. We did a poll, and 420 people, which is a really ironic number, voted. And I think you got, like, what was it, 28% of the vote for Kit Kats, and then we got the rest of it. So very excited about that. But earlier I went to the store to pick up said snacks and saw that there was a package of Reese's and Kit Kats together. Now, I bought my packages individually because it was 2 for $10, and why the hell not? But I think we can all agree to come together after the great candy debate of 2023 and unify ahead of Halloween, and just appreciate the Kit Kats and the Reese's and all the goodness.
I agree. And I think there are two heroes from this story. One of them is Butterfinger, who, Lauren mentioned
Yep.
did not add Butterfinger, just mentioned them, and all of a sudden Butterfinger joins the chat and is like, what did you say? You were like, they were honorable mention. Is that what you said? And then they were like, we're happy to be honorable mention.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, somebody asked about it, and I was like, yeah, they get an honorable mention, but like, we need to settle this between Kit Kat and Reese's. And Butterfinger was just like, we're good with the honorable mention. We love everybody. And it was like, what?
And like you would think Kit Kat and Reese's would follow suit and be like, but no, I added them several times. They could care less. But the other hero in the story is me. Because guess what, folks? Don't roll your eyes, babe. Guess what Shannon doesn't have to do with me? Hide her Reese's eggs. She has to hide them from everyone else, not from me. I'm the hero. Big Reese's, the lobby, they clearly skewed the poll results. But, I mean, aren't you happy about that, babe? You don't have to hide them from me.
They're pumpkins right now. I prefer the holiday Reese's shapes. Yeah. I believe that they are superior to all the others. I have a hierarchy that I work from. If I've run out of the holiday ones, I will accept the regular cups or big cups. I also like, but just no like mini cup. I'm not into the mini cups. I can't get enough peanut butter in the mini cup. But yeah, I mean, honey, that's nice of you, I suppose. But it's not like you like them and you're leaving them for me. You hate them. You despise them.
Well, first of all, I don't like your tone. But second of all, Lauren, what's your favorite? If you had to pick one of the Reese's, what's your favorite version of it?
I agree with Shannon that there is something about the holiday shapes that just tastes better. I don't know what it is. It's just like much more magical. But then aside from that, I like the Reese's Thins. There's like a nicer chocolate to peanut butter ratio. And I don't feel as bad about myself when I have the Thins.
Those are good. Agreed.
Well, all right. Now that we've gotten past the great candy debate of 23, I have the slideshow set up. And I also, Lauren, I hope I set up. I've been experimenting with different backgrounds. I hope you like this one. This made me think of you because here we go. You're always out. You're hiking. You're riding your bike. You're in nature. So you kind of inspired me to have this like background out in the in the woods. But go ahead. We got the slideshow up and go tell us, Lauren. What can we go over?
I am digging it. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for having me again. And JBO Nation, I love all of you. So just wanted to have some visual on the screen because I'm a visual type of person. So we'll walk you through kind of a little scrapbook here. So to take things back, I know, most people recognize this picture of me and my mom. And this was taken in December of 92. It was the last Christmas that we ever had together. She was found naked and bruised and dead on our floor a few months later. And her case is still unsolved. But really, I feel like when I do interviews and when you hear about the story, you don't really hear about what happened between then and what's happened now. So wanted to take everybody through that and just explain a little bit more about the journey and sort of where I've come from, where I'm going, and sort of how you can also navigate that in your own life as well. So if you want to skip to the next slide. This is so fancy. I love this. So these pictures are from my very early childhood. The top right-hand corner, that sort of mess of a place you see, that was my first home. We lived in a trailer in the middle of the woods, and it's no longer standing today. But when we first moved in, there was no electricity or plumbing. So my parents had to put that in all themselves, and it was a mess. But I had 3 older half siblings and then 1 younger half sibling, same dad, different moms. And that picture you see right in the middle, that's me and my younger brother, Kyle, who is only 5 days younger than me, which is a little scandalous, but I love him. And it was kind of really tough for me because when my mom passed, I only got to see my brothers for a few more years. There was a custody battle between my mom's sister and her then boyfriend, Richard. And after Allison, my mom's sister, and her boyfriend adopted me, I was taken away from my brothers and my father, and I wasn't allowed to see them again. I didn't get to say goodbye. And that was something that really impacted me a lot growing up, and I always looked for them, and I was totally determined to find them again. And that was kind of like my first big mystery in life. And it was just, that was a tough one. So if you want to go to the next slide. So after my adoption, life was a little different. I shuffled among 3 different houses growing up. So I would like get off the school bus and go to my dad's house. My adopted dad is that guy you see in the top right hand corner of the screen. I loved him. He was my dad. But I didn't get to live with him as a kid. I would go there for a few hours and do my homework and play with the dog he got me and hang out with him. And then my Aunt Allison would pick me up and take me to her boyfriend's house where we did not have furniture. We slept on blankets on the floor, and I think we had just a folding card table and some metal folding chairs and like a TV stand, and that was it. So that was a big part of my childhood. But we also, one thing we did have a lot of was books and puzzles, and we had Sega Genesis and the game Clue, which shows you how old I am. But that was kind of like the one thing I really loved, and that was something that I really dove into, was this idea of like a mystery and, solving a murder and figuring things out and solving puzzles. And that probably should have been assigned to me back then, but it would take many years for me to figure out where I wanted to go. So that was, weekdays, what I would do. And then on the weekends, I would stay with my dad's sister, Charlotte, who is that woman you see in the top left-hand picture, and her husband, Ray. They had a great marriage. They had this cute little house in like a really nice neighborhood. And it was a totally different lifestyle for me, where I could have kind of a normal life. So it was, sort of these very different environments that I grew up in, where, one had addiction and alcoholism, another one had love and support. And kind of the unifying thing was that my family always encouraged me to get a good education and do my best. And so that was sort of my childhood. If you want to skip to the next one.
Well, before I do, I gotta
Yeah.
know, what was your game on Genesis? What was the game? Was there a preferred game that you played?
So I loved Clue. That was like the MVP. But aside from that, Toe Jam and Earl was
Yes.
my
Sorry.
like number one. Yes.
I love Toe Jam and Earl. That was a great game. I also, of course, Sonic was a
Yep.
good one,
100%.
and the hockey game was a fun game. But that's Toe Jam and Earl. That was such a good game. That's amazing.
The best. Yes.
Let me go to
And
the.
it had like the best soundtrack too. So like absolutely, that was one of the OG games. So yeah, that was my childhood. And the next slide.
Oh,
So
did I
okay.
go too far, or is that the right
Nope,
one?
that's the right one.
Oh, okay.
That is the one. So slightly older childhood. If you take a look at that bottom left-hand picture, I promise you I was never popular. I was made fun of quite a lot. That picture is my daily reminder of what life was like back then. And but that's okay. So I think, a lot of us in this space, probably struggle to fit in at some point. Not everybody is interested in mysteries and murder and, figuring things out and kind of tinkering with this stuff. And I was that kid who just had like this interest from day one in solving cases and mysteries. But it was not always appreciated. So growing up, though, I did have a lot of support from my dad, who's seen there, and my Aunt Charlotte. And, they really, again, encouraged me to just keep getting an education and push for the things that I wanted in life. And in 2004, I still have this poster in my garage. My aunt worked at the courthouse downtown, and we had like this mentorship week where we could spend a week, mentoring wherever. And all these kids were doing like fast food restaurants and like, different stores. And I really wanted to go to the courthouse with her. So she set it up. And for a week, I got to go and meet the judges and tour the holding cells with the Capitol Police and see the weapons board, the things that they would confiscate. And we got to sit in on a murder trial at Superior Court. And that was like this wild moment for me of like, holy shit, like somebody's freedom is in the balance. And they're trying to find out if this person took this other person's life. And like hearing the prosecutor explain about the different types of blood spatter and showing the pictures in front of us as exhibits and sitting there and looking at somebody who was charged with a crime, it was like that stuck with me at, like 12, 13 years old. And it was something that, I think really kind of shaped my way forward and probably impacts, why I'm so interested in court trials today. But that was something that was really memorable for me. And I had that opportunity because of this woman who stepped into my life and stepped up to, really raise me. So that was that. And if you want to go to the next slide.
Before I do, I just want to note that thank you, mods. They're putting in your link tree in the chat. Make sure you're following Laura on Twitter. Her Twitter is awesome. Her Facebook, I mean, all her social media is awesome. So check out that link tree. Check all the sites. She's awesome. I mean, she rocks. That's why she's here. But make sure you're following her on all those sites. So let me go to the next slide.
Yeah, so fast forward, you would think that I would have gotten my law degree or something. I did not. I went to school for business, and I ended up in a career in finance, which it kind of crushed my soul. I was not interested in finance. I am not the numbers person, but that was where I ended up. And I also ended up in a really toxic relationship, which I think when you come from a background of trauma and you've gone through so many different things, it's really easy for that to happen. But then in 2015, 2 days before Christmas, my Aunt Charlotte was diagnosed with leukemia. And that changed my entire life because 2 days later on Christmas, my now ex, would not take me to go see her at the hospital. And I just remember driving there myself in the snow and thinking, you know what? If somebody can't be there for you in the worst moment of your life, they don't deserve to be there with you in the best moments of your life. And that's something that I still hold true to this day. And it's something that I would share with anybody if you're in that type of situation. So a few weeks later, in January of 2016, I packed up my little Fiat that I had. It was this tiny little clown car with everything that it could hold. And I rented a room with 3 strangers who I found on Craigslist. And I just, kind of struggled for a few months and eventually got my own place and was like, I can do this on my own. And at that same time, I also did something I always wanted to do, which is funny when you know my mom's story. And that was I learned how to mush sled dogs at a place in New Hampshire that rescues sled dogs and helps rehabilitate and rehome them. And it was just this incredible experience that showed me like I can do really cool, difficult things. That same year, in May of 2016, my aunt passed away. And again, really changed my life. That was another moment of like, I'd already lost my mom. At that point in time, I'd already learned that my birth father had also passed away in 2009. And it was like, here's this person who raised me. And I kind of thought maybe I had some kind of bargaining chip with God or whatever. And that didn't work out. And so I had to like find myself in that moment. And I ended up quitting my career in finance. And I was unemployed for a little bit. My friends and I called it the summer of unemployment. And it was a celebration at first until the money ran out. And then it was just kind of a mad struggle. And I became a housekeeper for like $11 an hour and would clean people's houses. But at the same time, I also found another passion of mine, and that is helping find missing living beings. The first missing case that I worked on was for a dog named Bryce. So I found this post today from 2016, and there was a Facebook group that Bryce's owner had created when this dog went missing in my town, and they were desperate to find him. And I was out of work, so I had the time, and I was like, for whatever reason, just totally determined to help find this dog. So I organized search teams. I created these maps of places where we were looking, provided updates every day, and started to organize people and realized that I was actually pretty good at it. And after about a week in the July heat and like not knowing where this dog was, he was found. And that was really incredible to me because it was like, holy shit, like you can actually make a difference here. And his owner sent me that card that you see to the right with a picture of him, and says at the bottom of it, please let this picture remind you about the life that you helped save and the family that you reunited. And I've kept that all these years because I just thought that was the coolest thing. And, that was a moment in my life of like, I really love doing this, but I didn't realize at that point that I would end up doing it for people. So, that was just kind of an interesting thing to think of. And if you want to go to the next slide.
Well, before I do, I mean, that is so fucking badass. I mean, you're out there finding dogs. I mean, if two of our dogs got lost, you guys know, for people who have dogs, I mean, that's your life. That's your family member. I mean,
That's your baby.
yeah. So like that is so freaking cool. And also, I was just thinking about, you're talking about, finance, and I think that's kind of one of the things we also we both had jobs we hated, and and that's like Gary Vaynerchuk is always like, you could do what you want, and that's what I added Gary, and I was like, hey Gary, I started this thing, and he like responded to me, and you were like, oh my god, Gary responded. We were both like losing our minds when Gary responded. So that's just one of the things we connected over. But yeah, let me.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. So, 2017. So the following year, I decided to give one last try to find my brothers, and like, you have to understand, I tried for so long to find them, but I also couldn't remember their names, and nobody would tell me anything about them. I didn't have any pictures of them. It was like, I didn't know where to go. So I ended up going to ancestry.com, and I had this crazy idea that if I made a family tree and filled in what I knew about my parents and grandparents and followed the branches, that I could look up other people who'd added my father to their family tree, reach out to them, and one of those people had to be related somehow and hopefully would know who my brothers were. So I did that, and I had a free trial for a week. And the week ran out and I got no response. So I canceled it because I was frustrated. And then maybe a week or two later, I got an email, and it's from this woman, and she's like, hey, this is your aunt. We do remember you. I know your brothers. They're all alive. If you're interested, call me. And of course, I like immediately called. I was still at work when I got this. I'm like, oh my God, I have to call you right now. And got back in touch with my brothers. They were all doing great in their lives, had all turned out to be awesome people. And then found out that my younger brother, Kyle, lived like 2 miles away from me. And not only that, we worked across the street from each other. Wow. So I was like, I messaged him, and he's just as introverted as me. So he was like, I don't know what to do with this. And I was like, listen, I am coming to pick you up. I am kidnapping you. We're going for drinks. We are going to catch up. And we did. And, fast forward to today, we actually work for the same company now. But he is, my twin, and I love him very much. But that was just, it's kind of just a lesson of don't give up, especially like if you're somebody who is looking for a lost sibling. If you are trying to find somebody who you knew once upon a time, there's so many different methods to do that, whether through genealogy websites or through social media. So just don't give up and always give it that one extra shot. So that is how I found my brothers again. First cold case that I solved was to find my own family. So there's that.
P.S. We're at slide 6 of 15, and you've already blown all our fucking minds. I mean, holy shit. So let me go to the next one.
I'm trying to run through it.
No, don't rush. Take your time. We are loving this. Absolutely loving this. Take your time.
Thanks, guys. So fast forward from 2017 to 2019. March 1st of 2019, my dad passed away unexpectedly. He had a heart attack, and thank you, Raul. I can see the message. I appreciate you so much. I love that. So, but that moment when my dad passed was the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. The day after he passed, actually, I was moving into a new apartment. It was raining. It was completely miserable. I felt lost. And then a few days later, I'm like planning his funeral. And, that was wild to me because 2 days before he died, we'd had dinner together and everything was fine. And, that hit me harder than anything. But a few months after that, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, I was just in this like really bad spot and said, I don't want to do this anymore. And so this is another thing that I always advocate for, and that's getting professional support. So I found a therapist who was fantastic and decided to work with them and work through my grief, not just for my dad, but for my mom and everything I'd gone through. And that made a huge difference. So that's something that I always advocate for is if you're in the spot where you've lost a loved one, whether it's through homicide or natural causes or whatever, do yourself a favor and find whatever support you can, because it does make a difference. And definitely did for me. I started to embrace a healthier lifestyle, not eating as many Reese's and working out more. And then, bam, in 2020, got whacked with another surprise when a woman messaged me on Facebook claiming to be my mom's old best friend. We got on a phone call and she said, hey, everything that you ever heard about your mom's death was a lie. She was actually murdered. And that started this whole wild, crazy journey of where we've, kind of come from in the last few years. But that was a moment for me of, I'd already lost my Aunt Charlotte. I'd already lost my dad. I'd already lost my mom. And now to dive back into that again was a very big decision for me. And it was one that I had to really think about. But at the end of the day, it honestly wasn't that much of a thought process because it was my mom. So I just decided, all right, I'm going to get this one solved. So if you want to go to the next slide.
Well, I do want to say before we go to the next slide, speaking about, I think you could probably have some Reese's because, I mean, you're out there. How many, was it 27 miles? How many miles are you biking when you're out there riding your bike?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The other day was 27 and a half.
27 and a half miles. You could have a Reese's. You could have some Reese's. I mean,
Reese's.
That's another thing, guys. If you follow her on social media, it's awesome. She's posting like these awesome, like she's going on bike rides. She's going in nature. It's inspiring AF, folks. So make sure you check out the link tree and follow everywhere.
Thank you. So yeah, that was kind of wild and crazy because for the first few months, anybody who's ever looked into a cold case, especially if your loved one died under suspicious or homicide circumstances, it is very difficult to get information from, in my case, it was almost 30 years before. And there was a huge waiting process to get autopsy reports and police reports. But the one thing I learned was that you just have to keep knocking, you have to keep trying, you have to keep calling and keep pushing, and eventually you will get someplace. And I got all of my mom's case files by, I want to say it was June of 2021. And around that same time, I was also cleaning out my adopted dad's house. And my best friend and I happened to stumble upon a duffel bag that my mom's sister hid in the basement underneath a pile of trash bags. And inside of it, we found my mom's old notebook, planners from the year and previous years before she died, and a whole bunch of photo albums. And it was like, that was such a sign to me of you're on the right track and keep going, and like, this boost of motivation when I didn't know where to go. And around that same time, because I was kind of up against a wall when it came to the state even paying attention to me, I decided to make my mom's case public. And it had never been in the media before. I was terrified to say anything about it publicly because I didn't know if her killers were going to like come after me, or like if, somebody was going to get really mad at me from the state or whatever. But in September of 2021, the original prosecutor assigned to the case said that they weren't going to reopen it and that I was going to be, quote, stuck with an unknown. And I just remember sitting there, and I had COVID at the time, and I was like, no, hell no. Like, we're not going to be stuck with an unknown reason for how my mother died. Like, that's unacceptable. I'm just not going to accept that. And so I created Unsolved Rhode Island, which, at the time there was no cold case unit in Rhode Island, and there was no place for families like mine to share about what they were going through or to get attention and awareness on their loved one's case. So I decided to make this group, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to give that platform to people for them to use and to get the support that they needed, and hopefully to generate leads. And I used my mom's first media spotlight to bring attention to it, because I felt like, everything I learned about her was that if the spotlight shined on her, she wanted to shine it on someone else. And that was really cool to me to see, like, that her case was able to do that. So that was kind of my first introduction to advocacy. And at the same time, I also got into helping find missing persons. December of 2021 was the first time that I helped law enforcement with finding a missing person. And it was an 11-year-old boy who ran out of his house on Christmas night without his shoes, and with a backpack on. And I looked for that little boy like he was my own son. Like, when I tell you, I scrambled together a group of volunteers and made my own flyers, printed them out, had this group going through the streets at night so that we wouldn't be mobbed by media, and like putting flyers up everywhere, looking for him all over the place, coordinating with law enforcement, asking for updates, sharing everything on our platforms. Like, I went all out for this child. And after a few days, he was found a couple of blocks away from home in a parked car. He was using his jacket to keep himself warm, and he was miraculously okay. And I'll never forget getting the text from one of the officers who was on the scene saying, "We got him, he's safe." And then to get the phone call that night of him thanking all the volunteers that worked with me, and this group called the Rhode Island Canine Search and Rescue Team that had offered their services free of charge. That was the first time that I ever got involved with that canine unit, and, told them every update as it was happening in case they were called in. And if that final lead hadn't panned out, the police were going to call them in to search for him. And it was just incredible to me to see that level of coordination and teamwork and to be a part of it. And that was like, I knew I found something then that, like, I had to just keep doing, and it felt like purpose. Very similar to, that first time searching for someone's lost dog, but such a indescribable feeling when it's somebody's child, and to know that you made some kind of a difference. That was everything to me. So that was really cool. And that was 2021. So if you want to go to the next slide, that same year, I solved a mini mystery associated with my mom's case, which was I found the love of her life. I don't use his full name on social media because he's not like a wicked big public guy, but his nickname was Pirate. And he gave my mom the nickname Sled Dog, which is why you see that everywhere, because they traveled to Alaska together. Actually, specifically, he went to Alaska to go work. He was in the Army, and he was doing some workout. He actually hitchhiked all the way across the country, until she got to the border and couldn't get any farther, and he had to like help get her a flight over. But she went to Alaska to be with him, and while she was there, she decided to learn how to mush sled dogs, and trained with an Iditarod winner. And they actually almost adopted a wolf puppy, I'm told, but their roommate would not allow it, which is probably a good thing. But finding Pirate was, just such a highlight to me. And, meeting him and realizing like this was the person who my mom loved, and, knowing her story and a lot of the struggles that she went through in life, to know that she had a love like that was really special to me. And to be able to bring him to her grave where he hadn't visited in, almost 40 years, that was pretty incredible. And even cooler was he actually saved things of hers. Like, this was her hunting knife that she had. It is a 1966 hunting knife, German steel, and he saved it for like 40 years just in case he ever found me, which is absolutely incredible. And this is a guy who he was just an amazing person in her life, and now is an amazing part of mine. So that was something really cool along the way. And it just goes to show that like you go looking for one thing and you might find something that you totally didn't expect. So just a bit of appreciation for Pirate. And if you want to go to the next slide.
Well, before I do, I have to point out, and Julie caught this as well. We have a first on the show: the use of Wicked. We had a nice Wicked in there. He's not Wicked big into it. That was awesome. Love to hear it. Wicked. That was the first use, I think, right, babe? Got to be the first time we've had a guest use Wicked, or anyone for that matter. So very exciting. Lauren is just first all day, every day here on Women Who Rock. So let me go to the next slide.
Thank you. So then another really cool thing that happened along the way. So talking about the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Rhode Island, I was actually introduced to someone associated with something called Atlas Investigations Rhode Island. And I was like, who are these people doing like all this really cool, investigative work, both digitally and in person. And I was really interested in what they were doing. And amazingly, the team at Atlas asked if I wanted to sort of be their apprentice and learn from them, and taught me a lot of tools of the trade, which was really cool. Because until that point, I'd sort of been, learning things on my own and kind of trial and error. But they really took me under their wing and taught me a whole lot, and then asked if I wanted to be part of this group of detectives who were doing some really cool things. I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, who's going to say no to that, right? So I went to this meeting, and, they called themselves LPDARI. And, everybody's introducing themselves, and it's like, this person was Secret Service. This person was with the DEA. This guy was FBI. And, like, you go around the table, and it's all these, like, incredibly well-accomplished, experienced investigators from, local, state, and federal levels. And it was just incredible to me that they welcomed me into that. But that group was, really instrumental in kind of guiding the way that I pursued being a private investigator. And there is a strict code of ethics that the group abides by. They've been around since 1998. They're the only group within Rhode Island that's, monitoring the laws and impacting legislation locally and nationally as it relates to private investigator work. And I've loved learning from them. And that was something where, you get to this point and you don't expect it, but as soon as you're there, you're like, this is exactly where I was meant to be. And that was exactly how I felt when I met this group. And I love to see what they're doing. And, in the future, we're going to be doing even more public events. So can definitely connect you guys with some of our team members if you're ever interested. But just really amazing people. And I've learned a lot from them. So very lucky and blessed. And if you want to go to the next slide. So talking about, how do you find balance and, relieve stress and get through your trauma? For me, I went back right to what I did as a child, and that was cycling. When I was a little kid, my dad got me a bike after my mom died, and that really got me through, I think, the early stages of grief. So after my dad died, I got a bike again. And by the time I was like, knee deep in my mom's case, I was cycling 100 miles a week and loved it. That was stress relief to me. That is where I do a lot of thinking and processing of my emotions and, balance myself. And at the same time, I also, I was in the beginning of my mom's case, I was really terrified that somebody was going to come after me, and I had no idea how to defend myself. So fortunately, my cousin Jared Tillinghast is the owner of Legendary Boxing RI, and he is a former undefeated light heavyweight champion boxer. And he is the person you see in that middle photo, looking like a pimp with his arms around all of us. And the woman to the right of him is Tessa Herbold, who is a female boxer, another complete badass, and one of my coaches as well. And I walked into the gym and said, please help me. And they did. And I discovered that I really loved learning how to box and sparring with people and just learning the technique, and found that to be a huge stress relief. So, if somebody listening to this is struggling with grief or anger over their loved one's case or anything, I definitely encourage you to consider some form of martial arts, because it is amazing. And along the way, I also really found my voice, and I learned, in the beginning of all of this, people told me, you don't want to say too much. You want to be quiet. It would be a bad idea to talk to media. Like, keep your mom's case on the down low. And I refused to do that because I felt like I had to play that card. I had to start speaking up and being louder about it because nothing was happening otherwise. And I discovered that once I did that, and once I spoke up, people surrounded and supported me. And that boosted me and kept me going when I thought that I couldn't. And so in 2022, I won a Providence Business News 40 Under 40 award. And it was for everything I'd done with Unsolved RI, everything I'd been doing in my career. And to me, it was like I felt like I'd finally found my voice. And, it makes me think of that woman who left that toxic relationship in 2016, and really where I came from and where I started, and to see myself get that far. I'd never envisioned that for myself in 2016. I just was happy to get this rented room from Craigslist with 3 strangers. So if anybody's watching this and wondering like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't because of XYZ. No, you can. You can find a way to make things happen, and you deserve to be able to make them happen and to pursue your own passions and live a happy life. So let that be a testament to the fact that it is possible. And was, kind of how I got through the last few years. And if you want to switch to the next slide, couple really cool things happened after all of that effort. So in November of last year, my mom's cold case was reopened, and that was really exciting. A month later, the Attorney General's office requested $350,000 for the first statewide cold case unit. Our governor rejected that request for who knows why the hell he did that, but the fight wasn't over. I found out about it and reached out to the AG's office and was like, hey, listen, I know we've been at odds a little bit here, but like, I think that we can be on the same team, kind of like, Snickers and Kit Kat uniting. Like, let's fight this one together. And I was like, tell me what I can do. And they said, well, we're going to go for an amendment in the budget. And if you want to testify, like, we're going to be at the State House on this date. I'm like, yep, put me in, coach. And that day I wrote my speech, and, like that, I was just so fired up. I was ready to go. And that was, the beginning part of 2023. And February 1st of this year, my mom was exhumed. And that was the most surreal day, because after 3 years of fighting and pushing for that to happen, it finally did. And it was like, holy shit, like, I can't believe that we actually made it this far after, I had so many people, from detectives to prosecutors to experts, who told me that I wasn't going to get the case reopened, and I did. And not only that, like, I got my mom exhumed and got her a chance at getting these new forensic tests. And I'm not somebody super special. Like, I don't have a huge bank account. I didn't have a crazy title. I think I had like 4 followers on Twitter when I joined in November of last year. So it just goes to show you that like anybody can do anything. Because if I can do that, you can too. I didn't start off with anything special. I just had this hell-bent determination that I wasn't going to give up. And it was tough, and there were moments where I wanted to, but in those moments, you have to just tell yourself to keep going, even if it's really, really hard. So that happened in February. And then a few months later, on June 2nd, I got the news that General Assembly leadership had unanimously passed the cold case unit after the Attorney General and I both testified in support of it. That was my big mad speech, where I just kind of, spoke from the heart and spoke not just about my mom, but for on behalf of the other families that I'd met along the way, and, come to know and feel their pain. And I was really proud of that. And, it's really cool to see that now we have a statewide cold case unit here in Rhode Island, and I'm excited to see where that goes. To the next slide, please.
I mean, let's just take a second. How badass was? I mean, I knew you were a badass, but then I know I'm looking on Twitter and you're testifying in front of like a committee, like just I mean, you're blowing our mind here. I mean,
That was
what was
scary.
what was I was going to ask you like that must have been nerve wracking, huh?
Yeah, I showed up and I sat down and I realized that the attorney general was sitting right in front of me. And I was like, oh shit, that's the AG. And he got up and I was like, oh, hi, Mr. Nerona, nice to meet you. And he kind of looked at me funny and then he recognized me and he was like, oh, hey, like, thanks so much for being here. Like, you're doing some great research on your mom's case. Like, we're going to keep pushing. I got my best people on it. And, like, we're happy to fight for this. And it was like, oh my God, the AG knows my name. And then when he spoke before me. And at one point during his speech, he mentioned my mom and me. And he said, we need this to get justice for victims like Lori Malloy and for her daughter, Lauren. And I was sitting there like, and his whole team looked at me. And it was just like this crazy moment of like, the AG knows my mom's name. And like, he's using my mom's case to fight for something that's going to help so many people. It was so surreal to me. It was so cool.
Amazing.
So that was awesome. And also this year, I officially joined the Rhode Island Canine Search and Rescue Team. I thought it was kind of funny when I was looking for photos to find this post I made on our page the other day of a training scenario we did last weekend. And if you look at that map, it really reminded me of the super backyard version of the map that I made in 2016 for that missing dog. And like, I think that was like my full circle moment of like, wow, to go from, working on my own on Facebook and like walking around in these neighborhood streets for a missing dog to training with this team of professionals using some really awesome equipment to help find missing persons across the state with local and state law enforcement. It's just really cool. And I love what I get to do with that team. And a couple of shout outs here. I would be remiss not to mention the Nonviolence Institute here in Rhode Island. I connected with them actually not too long ago, but every month they hold a meeting, a group meeting for families of homicide victims. And I think that that's so important and something that we need more of, both in person and virtually, because there aren't a lot of spaces where families can just be safe and open and speak about what they're going through. But this is one of those. And I've made some really incredible friends through that group and, learned a lot about things going on in Rhode Island and about other families as well. And also hand in hand with that is Uncovered. So I met the team at Uncovered in 2021, right around the time that Unsolved Rhode Island got started, and very quickly realized that they were an incredible resource for us by getting our local cases onto a national map, which increased the visibility. And not only that, but offering this opportunity for us to have full case pages about our local victims, and be able to put all the resources in one place and share everything out from one link. So we actually link directly to the Rhode Island map from Unsolved RI, and I'm so appreciative for them and so excited that they also recently connected with the Nonviolence Institute to support some of their cold case families and helping them get their loved ones on the map, which is amazing. And one more shout out is to my friend Jolyn Rice, who is the founder of Cold Case Advocacy. She's been with me through this since the beginning, a very beloved member of Team Sled Dog. And she was kind enough to ask if I wanted to contribute to something called Finding Your Voice, a media pitch guide for unsolved homicide cases. And it's really cool to see. That's on Amazon. You can buy it. There's a link right from the Cold Case Advocacy Twitter page or directly on Amazon under that title. And that was, compiled myself, other victims' families, Jolynn from her own research. And it's a lot of the things that we've all used to help further our loved ones' cases. So if you are stuck and don't know where to go, that's a great resource for you. So just wanted to mention those folks. And then the final slide that we have, we're at the end. So kind of where things are and where things are going. Right now, it is day 268 of waiting for my mom's forensic exam results. Hoping to have those any day now. But while we're waiting, some other cool things are happening. So still working on missing persons cases and unsolved cases. And I wanted to mention this one thank you that I got, because I think that it's important to show that our digital advocacy works. I hadn't met this family, but I heard about their missing loved one's case on social media, and something about it just really struck me. So I said, you know what, I'm going to make a TikTok. I'm going to make posts about this. I'm just going to get the word out everywhere, especially on Twitter. And this person had been missing for almost a week, and they were found, I think it was 24 or 36 hours of getting them out there. And then I got this email a few days later, and if it's tough to read it's very redacted just to protect their privacy. But this person said, "Hi, Lauren, this is so-and-so," and explained how they knew the missing person. They said, "Thanks to your help, we found so-and-so. They were in the hospital under a Doe name. Before that, they were on the streets of New York City, which is incredibly dangerous. They were found because a nurse saw their photo and recognized them. They're now getting treatment. It's going to be a long recovery, but we're so happy to have them back." They thanked me for the time and effort and sharing, but it blew me away, because it was our community that made that happen. Like, sure, I made the posts and got the awareness out there, but it's everybody picking that up and sharing it. I'm not in New York, but you guys are, and some of your friends are. And, there are chances that somebody retweeted that, and this nurse in New York City saw it and recognized their patient, like 1 in a million. And that was absolutely incredible. And I wanted to highlight it, because that's what we do. And that's why we're here. And that's why it matters. And like, even, the other day, Julie, I know Julie's on here. When she was on, she talked about reaching that one right person, and you never know when that's going to happen. So that's why it's important, when you see a missing poster, when you see a family's cry for help, just share it. It takes 2 seconds. Do something good, and you never know where it's going to end up. So that is my kind of like push. But the other thing I wanted to mention is I'm very excited. Lainey Hobbs, who helped create this beautiful advocacy shirts as part of the giveaway, thank you guys, connected me with a friend of hers, Carrie, who prints and ships out t-shirts and does it for the True Crime Podcast Festival and other creators. And we are working together to create Team Sled Dog t-shirts, sweatshirts, all the good things. That is in process, and 30% of the proceeds are going to go directly to the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute, which was founded by our friend Cheryl McCollum, who's also the host of the Zone 7 podcast, and I believe a beloved member of JBO Nation. So very excited about that, and that's where we're at. And that is the end.
Just blown away. I'm blown away, babe. I mean, I feel like I want to cry. I feel like I'm inspired. I mean, babe, what are your thoughts?
Yes.
And I got some. While babe gives her thoughts, I'm gonna highlight some of these comments.
Chats. Okay. Well, one thing that you didn't mention that I really wanted to ask you about is, Lauren, you have such a gift for writing and communication. And I know that you grew up with all these books around you all the time, but is that how did this come about? I mean, you like went to, and you blew me away when you're like, I went to school for finance. I'm like, no, you didn't. You went for creative writing, Lauren, because you're such a good writer. But you are, people in the chat want to know if you're ever going to write a book. Talk to us a little bit about your writing.
So I appreciate that so much. I gotta dig them out. I have to find them anyway, because I started writing. I mean, when I was a kid, I started writing short stories, but then when I was 11, I started writing journals, and that really got me through a whole lot in life. Like, I have volumes of journals, and I embrace that. And as an adult, I now work in communications, which I probably should have been doing from the get go. But I'm also in process of writing a memoir. I have written several chapters already. I I have to be very vague, and I hate being very vague, but there's some exciting things that are in the works. A project is in process. I'm hoping very much that that'll be public soon, but part of that is this memoir, and getting the full story out there and showing like how far you can come. And seeing all these comments on the screen and the feedback I've gotten from people, it's really motivating to me, because I always kind of thought, like, who wants to hear about your story. And like, I think it's important, though, when you go through really, really difficult things, to talk about that, not just to like get through it yourself, but so that other people see that you're not alone in what you're going through. And like, maybe you didn't get a weird call from somebody about your murdered parent, but maybe you just lost your job, or maybe you're going through a really tough breakup and you need to like find some kind of motivation in yourself, and you never know where that can come from. So I think it's really important to share those things, and that's why I do so often.
Absolutely. Please keep writing. You're a beautiful writer.
Thank you.
Anything else, babe? I mean, it's been an hour. I mean, some Sarah put she really did all the legwork for us, Lauren, and you sure. I mean, that was so freaking awesome. Holy shit! Go ahead, baby. Got something?
No, I also love the through line of whether it's serendipity in your life, or if it's like the guiding hand of your mom, or what it is, but just like you find the duffel bag, and like it's just the through line of serendipity in your life is so beautiful. And it can't belong to a more beautiful person than you, because you have used every single thing. And just like you said, what your mom did, she would turn the spotlight around, and you do the same thing for people. And so I really noted that was going on with you, and in everything that you were saying.
Thank you. And one really cool note about that duffel bag, like, you talk about serendipitous. So my best friend grabs the duffel bag. She puts it on my dad's pool table. She goes to open it. She grabs the first photo album and she opens it up. And right before that, she says to me, she looks at me, and it's all prophetic. And she goes, all the answers you're looking for are going to be in this bag. And she opens up the first photo album and she goes, oh my God, that's my brother. Now, plot twist, my mom grew up on the same street as my best friend's older siblings, and knew my best friend's older brother and sister. And my best friend opens up this photo album that was my mother's, like 30 years ago, and there's a picture of her older sibling right there. And she looked at me and was like, you can't make this up. And that was absolutely wild. And it was just a sign to me of like, all right, my mom's watching out, and like, we are on the track.
Just amazing. Like I said, I'm blown away. I'm kind of speechless. I am gonna. I mean, the hours. I can't believe it's been an hour. I want to, before I forget, we set up this YouTube to go to Publicly Buzz tonight at 10, folks. It'll take you in the portal, so make sure to like that stream. But like I said, I normally end these interviews saying, welcome to J. I explain what J-Bo Nation is, and I say welcome. I mean, I'm going to play the song anyway because it's a funny song and we all love to hear it. But thank you. I should say thank you for being in J-Bo Nation, not welcome. Thank you, because we are all better for you being part of this community and being with us, promoting everything we do. Retweet, like just seeing your timeline. I always love when I see you, like in my my comments, or it's just. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you so much. You rock so hard. I mean, wow. I guess, babe, any final thoughts? And then I'll give Lauren if she's got any final words.
Have the whole there's like a whole motorcycle rally going by outside right now at this very time that I'm giving my final thoughts. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I love it. That's so
All right, I
funny.
think
Yeah,
it's
no, I appreciate it. I'm very proud to be part of J-Bo Nation and surrounded by all the best. So thank you guys.
No, I think the last thing that I wrote down was I love that you said that you have hell bent determination, and I just love it. I love it. Don't give up. You're badass.
Oh, thank you.
all right. I guess that's.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any final anything final you want to say, Lauren? Any final words to the folks out there?
That's it for me. I appreciate it, and thanks everybody.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for joining us, J-Bo Nation. Please give all of yourselves an ovation. No, it won't be real long until next time. Oh, J-Bo Nation, there's no place we'd rather be. J-Bo Nation is the place to 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 be.